Here is something that has bothered me for a very long time. You know the law. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. Fine, I accept it. You accept it. We all accept it. But let me ask you a question that should bother you far more than it probably does. What kind of law is that? Think about it. You are not being told how something works. You are being told that the books always balance. That is not physics. That is accounting. And it is very strange accounting, because nobody can show you the accountant. Seriously, where is this rule enforced? When a star explodes and flings 1 billion tons of matter across 50 light years of empty space, who is checking the receipts? When you burn a log and it turns into heat and ash and carbon dioxide and light, who is adding up the columns to make sure nothing was gained or lost? There is no energy inspector standing at the edge of the universe with a clipboard. There is no cosmic auditor. And yet the books balance every time, to extraordinary precision, across every scale, every process, every domain of physics we have ever examined. Why? Your teacher never answered that question. Neither did your textbook. They stated the law. They showed you examples. They made you solve problems where you tracked energy from one form to another. And you walked away thinking you understood conservation of energy, when really all you understood was how to apply a rule whose origin nobody had bothered to explain. Today, I want to explain it, and the answer turns out to be one of the most surprising and beautiful results in the entire history of science. But to get there, I have to first convince you that the question is harder than you think. Here is what makes conservation of energy so strange. Energy does not look like one thing. It looks like a dozen different things wearing a dozen different disguises. A bullet fired from a rifle has kinetic energy. A rock sitting on the edge of a cliff has gravitational potential energy. The molecules of boiling water are vibrating with thermal energy. A beam of light crossing empty space carries electromagnetic energy. The nucleus of a uranium atom is bound together by nuclear energy so intense that releasing even a tiny fraction of it can flatten a city. Now, these things share nothing in common. They are described by completely different equations. They appear in completely different physical contexts. A vibrating molecule looks nothing like a photon, looks nothing like a uranium nucleus. And yet we are told that you can add all of these wildly different quantities together, this mad jumble of motion and position and vibration and radiation and nuclear binding, and the total will come out the same before and after any process. That is not obviously true. That is bizarre. If someone told you that the total weight of all the animals in Africa plus the total brightness of all the stars in Orion plus the number of grains of sand on a beach in Brazil always adds up to the same number, you would think they were insane. Why should a collection of physically unrelated quantities obey a perfect, exceptionless bookkeeping rule? For a very long time, the only honest answer was that we did not know. We simply observed that it worked, and we used it. People tried to break it. Oh, how they tried. For centuries, inventors poured their lives into building machines that would create energy from nothing. Perpetual motion machines, wheels that would spin forever, arrangements of magnets and weights and falling water that would somehow produce more energy than you put in. These were not stupid people. Some were brilliant engineers. Some were wealthy aristocrats who funded elaborate workshops. Some were genuine scientists who convinced themselves they had found a loophole in nature. None of them succeeded, not one, and the failures were sometimes spectacular. There was a man named Johann Bessler in the early 1700s who claimed he had built a wheel that turned by itself indefinitely. He demonstrated it publicly. He locked it in a sealed room for 2 months, and when they opened the door, it was still turning. He attracted the attention of serious scientists across Europe, but he was so paranoid about someone stealing his secret that he destroyed his own machines rather than allow inspection. He died without revealing the mechanism. Most historians believe a hidden compartment held a mechanism driven by a servant or by falling weights that were periodically reset. We will never know for certain. The point is this: nobody could ever build a perpetual motion machine, and nobody could explain why. They could only say it appears to be impossible. Appears, as if maybe tomorrow someone clever enough would find a way. That bothered me. Appears to be impossible is very different from must be impossible. One is an observation, the other is understanding. I wanted the second one, and the second one exists. But it came from a direction nobody expected. Let me ask you a question that will seem to have nothing whatsoever to do with energy. Bear with me. This is going somewhere extraordinary. Suppose you build a laboratory, beautiful laboratory, wonderful equipment, everything precise and calibrated. You measure the gravitational constant. You measure the speed of light. You measure how strongly two charges repel each other. You write down every result. Then you put the whole thing on a truck, drive it 300 miles, set it up again, and repeat every experiment. What do you get? The same results. Exactly. The laws of physics do not depend on where you are. Now that seems obvious, almost stupidly obvious. Of course, gravity works the same in Chicago as it does in Tokyo. If it did not, the universe would be incomprehensible. We could never discover laws at all because they would be different everywhere. But watch what happens when I change the question slightly. Instead of moving your laboratory through space, move it through time. Do your experiments today, then do them tomorrow, then next week. Next year, 1,000 years from now. Same results. The laws of physics are the same today as they were yesterday and as they will be tomorrow. Gravity is not getting weaker. The speed of light is not drifting. The charge of an electron is not fluctuating. The rules are fixed. They persist. They are the same at every moment. This seems even more obvious than the spatial version. Of course, the laws do not change over time. That is practically the definition of a law. But I want you to hold this thought, this almost boringly obvious thought, because what I am about to tell you will make you see it completely differently. Here is what I want you to imagine. Imagine a universe where gravity is getting slightly stronger every year, just a tiny bit, 1 part in a trillion per year. You would never notice in a human lifetime. But it is there, creeping upward. Now drop a ball from exactly 1 meter high today. Measure its speed when it hits the ground. Write that number down. Come back next year. Same ball, same height, 1 meter exactly. Drop it again. Measure the speed. It is faster. Gravity got stronger. The ball accelerated more. It hit the ground with more kinetic energy than it did last year. But you started with the same setup. Same ball, same height, same potential energy at the start. So where did the extra kinetic energy come from? Nowhere. It appeared out of nothing. Energy was created. In that universe, energy is not conserved. And the reason, the specific reason, is that the laws of physics changed between this year and last year. Gravity got stronger. The rules shifted. And the moment the rules shifted, the accounting broke. The book stopped balancing. Now run it backwards. In our universe, the real universe, gravity does not change. The speed of light does not change. The laws are the same at every moment. And because of that, when you drop the ball today and tomorrow and next year, you always get the same speed at the bottom. Energy in equals energy out. Every time. Do you see what just happened? I did not prove energy conservation by measuring it. I derived it from the constancy of physical law. If the laws do not change with time, energy must be conserved. If the laws do change, energy conservation fails. They are logically married. You cannot have one without the other. This is not my insight. This was proven rigorously by a mathematician in 1918. Proven, not suggested, not hypothesized. Proven with mathematical certainty. And the proof is far more general than just energy. It reveals an entire hidden architecture connecting symmetry to conservation that underlies all of physics. The theorem says this: for every continuous symmetry of the laws of physics, there exists a corresponding quantity that is conserved. The laws do not change when you shift position in space. That symmetry gives you conservation of momentum. That is why two billiard balls colliding always have the same total momentum before and after the collision. It is not because momentum wants to be conserved. It is because the universe does not care where the collision happens, here or 3 miles east. Same rules, same outcome. Momentum must be conserved. The laws do not change when you rotate your orientation. That symmetry gives you conservation of angular momentum. That is why a planet orbiting a star sweeps out equal areas in equal times. It is why a spinning skater speeds up when she pulls in her arms. Angular momentum is locked in place by the universe's blindness to direction, and the laws do not change when you move through time. That symmetry, that specific symmetry, gives you conservation of energy. One theorem, 3 symmetries, 3 conservation laws, the entire foundation of classical physics, emerging not from experiment, not from measurement, but from the structural properties of the universe itself. The person who proved this was Emmy Noether. She worked at the University of Göttingen in Germany at a time when the university did not permit women to hold faculty positions. For years, she lectured under a male colleague's name. When she applied for a position, the philosophy faculty objected. One member reportedly asked what the soldiers returning from the war would think, being taught by a woman. The mathematician David Hilbert replied that the university was a place of learning, not a bathhouse, and the sex of the candidate was irrelevant. She was eventually allowed to lecture under her own name, though she received no salary for years. When the Nazis rose to power, she was dismissed because she was Jewish. She emigrated to America and continued working at Bryn Mawr College. She died in 1935 at 53. Einstein wrote in the New York Times that she was the most significant creative mathematical genius produced since the beginning of higher education for women. She has been dead for decades, and her theorem remains the most powerful organizing principle in theoretical physics. Not one of the most powerful, the most powerful. Every conservation law we know of traces back to an older symmetry. Everyone. Now I want to make sure you see the full weight of what we have uncovered, because I think most explanations stop too early. They tell you that time symmetry produces energy conservation, and they leave it there as if naming the connection is the same as understanding it. It is not. Ask yourself this question: what is energy? People treat energy as if it were a substance, an invisible fluid that sloshes from one container to another. But it is not a substance. You cannot hold energy in your hand. You cannot isolate a pure sample of it. Energy is a number. It is a quantity you calculate from the positions and velocities and masses and forces of a system. You plug in the numbers, you turn the mathematical crank, and out comes a result. What is extraordinary, what should give you chills, is that out of all the possible quantities you could compute from positions and velocities, out of the infinite number of mathematical combinations you could construct, exactly one of them turns out to be constant across time. 1. Not because we went searching for a conserved quantity and got lucky, but because the symmetry of nature reaches into the mathematics and selects it. The symmetry determines the conserved quantity completely. We do not choose it. Nature does. Energy is not a thing that happens to be conserved. Energy is the name we give to the thing that time symmetry forces into existence. It is the mathematical fingerprint of the fact that the universe does not change its own rules. That is why energy takes so many seemingly unrelated forms: kinetic, potential, thermal, electromagnetic, nuclear. They look nothing alike because they arise in completely different physical situations. but they are all expressions of the same underlying invariance. They are all manifestations of the universe's consistency across time. They all balance because the symmetry demands it. The reason you can convert the kinetic energy of a falling rock into thermal energy when it hits the ground and have the numbers come out exactly right is the same reason an experiment performed today gives the same result as one performed 10,000 years ago. Same symmetry, same conservation law. Every form of energy is a different face of the same deep truth. This is what your teacher should have told you, not just the rule, the reason behind the rule. And the reason is this: the universe is consistent. The laws of physics do not vary from moment to moment. That constancy, that persistence, that quiet refusal of nature to change its own rules is not a separate fact from energy conservation. It is energy conservation. They are the same statement written in two different languages. One is the language of experience, of measuring and calculating and watching the numbers balance. The other is the language of structure, of symmetry, of the deep geometry of physical law. When you watch a pendulum swing, trading height for speed and speed for height, that steady rhythm is the rhythm of time symmetry made visible. When a photon is absorbed by an atom and an electron jumps to a higher energy level, that precise transaction is time symmetry enforcing its ledger. When the sun converts 4 million tons of matter into energy every second and has been doing so for 5 billion years without the books ever failing to balance, that is not magic. That is the geometry of the universe holding firm. Conservation of energy is not a rule imposed on the universe from outside. It is a consequence of the universe being the kind of universe that has stable laws. If the laws ever changed, energy conservation would break. The fact that it never breaks, not once, not ever in any experiment, is itself evidence that the laws of nature have remained constant across the entire history of the cosmos. So the next time someone tells you energy cannot be created or destroyed, you can nod politely. But you will know something they probably do not. You will know that this is not just an empirical finding. It is not just something we measured. It is a mathematical consequence of the deepest structural feature of the universe, the fact that the rules do not change. And that is not a small thing. That is everything. Because if the rules did change, there would be no science. There would be no prediction. There would be no understanding at all. Just chaos. The conservation of energy is the universe telling you it can be trusted, that what was true yesterday will be true tomorrow, that the ground beneath your feet, the logic underneath your reasoning, the structure supporting every equation you have ever written is stable. That is not just a law of physics. That is the reason physics is possible at all.